Hi there, Cosmic Family. My name is Leal in this incarnation. So today I wanted to talk about addictions, substances, and consuming sacred plants, for example. So I'm going to start by saying that addictions are not reduced to substances. Everything we can do in order to cut ourselves from the body or from our emotions or from our voids are actually, and we do it constantly, are addictions. So many people like to think that only, I don't know, people who are consuming cocaine, I don't know, they are addicts. But there's a lot of addictions that, a lot of things that could cause addiction. For example, it's very well known that people that are separated from, for the first time, for example, from a narcissistic partner, experiment an abstinence syndrome. So this could translate, addiction could be translated, displaced to many things. But when we are talking about substances, we really know that many of them could be dangerous for our body and our mind, and people who experimented this know this very well. I myself experimented a lot of things. I'm going to talk today about what I know, but certainly many of those things weren't healthy. I told you in a video that I don't feel that I had this addiction, but it was for short time, or 3 months of my life, and I could realize it, I think, on time. Every time is realizing on time, every time we are really doing our labor and trying to better ourselves is the time. I'm not saying that people who spend more time in an addiction is late, of course not. But what I'm trying to say is that I experimented things for a short time in my life. So I hadn't this feeling that I was an addict. That's the main point. But I'm not trying to deny the problem that I had, because this is very important. I think many times people who had addictions, it's difficult to cure themselves because they identified with the personality, with the addict personality. So it's very difficult to detach from that, and I think they many of those people are coming back to those practices because they think they are that and they cannot change that. So for me, it's very important. I mean, there's a lot of programs of rehab that tells you that you are an addict now and ever, and I don't think that that's the best approach. But that doesn't mean that we have to deny the problem. Of course not. And I mean, when I was in my lowest point with alcohol, that I think that was my biggest problem. And although now I can consume it not in a compulsive way, I choose to not do it because I really don't feel like doing that anymore. But it's important to understand that at that time, when I was I wasn't a teenager, but it was my 20s, many of my friends were having the same behaviors related to alcohol, for example, and they didn't see a problem, not in me and not in them. So for example, alcohol, I think it's a very dangerous one because it's legal. Many people consume it every weekend, or make the consuming of alcohol a practice, and it is actually something that it's not good for our body. So I started to realize that the problem for me wasn't alcohol. I wasn't a person that I got up in the morning and I drink a beer, but the problem was the things I did and the person I became when I consume it a lot. So of course that was a symptom of my trauma, and there were a lot of things behind that I had to work on. But what I'm trying to say is, for me, I didn't identify myself as an addict, but I didn't deny that I had a problem at that time. Just that it's like the video that I told you about the diseases that I healed myself. I didn't identify with that disease, and that's what made me healthy. Then later, that's what made me believe that I could heal myself. That's what I wanted to say. So I think that with drugs was the same for me. I didn't deny it, that I had a problem, or I didn't deny that that practice wasn't good for me, because I was feeling that in my body, and but I choose to not identify myself with the addiction, the addict person. So I think that's how I quit. I did it myself. I didn't look for help, and I am not doing that. This is the path that people have to do. Of course not. If you need help, just look for it. I certainly I chose this way, and I chose this way for many things, because I really believed that I could do it. But that's not the case for everyone, and we don't have to pretend we are strong, or we don't have to pretend anything. I think we have to be responsible, and we have to be aware if we really need help. So I cut ties with everything, and I cut ties with people that were involved in that things, of course, because if we are in a surrounded by people that do those kind of things, we are going to it's going to be difficult to detach, from things that are doing wrong to you. So I wanted to express this. I know that could sound polemic, because many people that are actually that went to rehab were good for them, or were good for them think about them as an forever addict. But I think it's important to detach from identifications of our personality, and what is important is to be aware of our temptations, our egoistical desires, and that's a path of responsibility in every way, and I think it's the only way to change it, because many people have the identification with an addict, but still come back once and once and once and again, all over again. They fall again in that kind of practices, and it doesn't help at all, because they are not taking responsibility. It's all about responsibility. I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying it depends on how much time you spend doing that. But again, there's a lot of behaviors that are addictive, and we can do it without thinking they are dangerous, because they are not drugs. For example, if I stayed many hours watching TV or eating or restricting food, I could damage myself in a very hard way, and that are addictive behaviors too. That is an addiction. It's a mechanism, and what we are trying to do is to run from ourselves and from our hard emotions, our difficult emotions. At the end, I think that every person that falls in those things, which I think is everybody in a point, or everybody wants, for example. We are trying only just to to avoid ourselves, to avoid feeling what we are feeling. So for me, it's very important to make a separation between chemical drugs and sacred plants. For me, it's not the same at all, and people who consume cocaine know very well that the environment where people are doing that, it's very dark. It's a dark drug, and I think the purposes are dark. That drug is created to manipulate people, and I think all the chemical drugs had that purpose. So I think, and from the spiritual perspective, cocaine really, I don't know if this is the word, but breaks our aura, the physical field. It's damaged. So it's very important to make this separation for me, and this happened with other chemical drugs. So of course I don't recommend it. I experimented that at what point of my life, but now I want to talk about sacred plants. I didn't consume, for example, ayahuasca. But I've been in Amazonia. I wanted to at that time, but there was something inside me that was having fear of doing that. So at the end, I didn't do it. And but I knew a lot of people that did that practice, and I saw like really good changes in them. They quit a lot of things. They quit smoking. They quit. Bad nutrition. They quit a lot of things, and I really saw a change. But it's important to understand that sacred plants are not the only way to do that. It's not something that precisely if we don't take that path, it's not going to work. It's not about that. It's important that sacred plants, for me, it's not a practice we have to engage in order to avoid our responsibility, that we have to do things in our material plane and in our life to change it if we are not feeling quite comfortable with our life, our present life. And it's important to understand that it's not good for me to do it with people that we don't know well, or we are not feeling safe. It's important the group and the people with whom we are practicing that. And it's important to understand again that that's not the only path, and that's not the path for everybody either. I think that's something that you're gonna feel inside. And I'm going to talk about cannabis because really I think that plant have a lot of good things. The oil now it is used with people with autism and epilepsy too, and it is really power. I know that it works so well with those people to have a better quality of life. But about to smoke cannabis, I want to say this. I did that practice too. I choose to I chose to detach from everything. In fact, I was a smoker of a lot of years, and I quit smoking the last year. I wasn't a smoker, and that I had, I don't know, 20 cigarettes per day. I smoked rolled tobacco, for a lot of years, and there were weeks that I smoked 2 cigarettes per week. I wasn't a person that has this compulsive addiction to smoking, but I chose to quit totally. That's something that my body asked simply. And with cannabis, it happened to me too. But it's very important for me to understand this, because cannabis could cause dependence, a psychology dependence, codependence. And for me, it's important to treat it like a sacred plant. It's important to the intention with we are doing that. It's important the people, again, we are surrounded, but it's not only to consume cannabis, is for everything, for life. And it's important to understand that if we are using that to avoid ourselves, or because we are feeling okay, but without the cannabis we are not feeling okay, there's a problem. So for me, it's very important to understand that, and I really saw people that were on dependence of cannabis. So I think it's very important to be aware of how we are practicing that, and it really, in my perception, it really revealed many times light. I can say that, but it's not the only way. And I think we can experiment things with sacred plants, but at the end, and I'm not talking about only sacred plants, I'm talking about everything. Actually, all the bridges to connect to spirituality. I think at the end we're going to detach from everything, because we don't need something in the middle of God, or the energy of universe, or spirit in ourselves. I think we can connect to that instantly if we want to, but those things are bridges, and for me, at the end, we're going to detach from everything. But I'm not saying that people that are experimenting with that are doing something wrong. I think it's part of the journey, and I don't find cannabis as something bad at all, but I think it's important to understand that it could cause a dependence, and that many people, I saw people like using it for everything. I need to work, I need to do something, I need to cook, and everything was through cannabis. And I don't think that's the very best use of that. And I mean, I did that once myself, so I don't think that's the best path. But you could experiment whatever you want. And for me, it's important the intention, why we are doing that, and just treat it like a sacred plant, like everything, like the others. I didn't want to be much specific about ayahuasca, because I didn't experiment that. I did experiment another plant, which I know I don't recommend at all, and I don't remember the name in English. But I was a teenager at that time, and I didn't know what that plant was. I did it totally unconscious. So that it was something that a friend of mine, invited me, and I didn't know what what was that? So if I had information, I wouldn't try it. Okay, I wouldn't have tried it. So finally, it's about us. I only wanted to express this, that plants could be bridges to experiment things, to connect with parts of ourselves, to reveal light in some stages of our life. But we have to be very aware how we are using them, because everything that we are using to run from our lives, from ourselves, from our emotions, it's becoming an obstacle actually, and not a bridge. So I wanted to express that, and of course make this difference between chemical drugs and sacred plants, because for me are not the same. And I did experimented chemical ones. So at the end, I think that we can connect to a spirit in many ways, in many paths, and as much as we do it without intermediaries, I don't know if that's the word, but without bridges, we can do it ourselves without taking something to connect to our spirit. That's something we can practice, just breathing. But for many people could bring something about them that is useful too. I saw it. People who are very repressed, or had a lot of problems with control. Many times I saw how cannabis, experimenting cannabis, make contact them with this other part of themselves, and it's good. But if that part only appears when you are consuming, I think that's when the problem becomes a reality, the dependence. So I will end the video here. Thank you everybody, and see you tomorrow. Ciao ciao.